tentang bagaimana ia boleh dijadikan suatu struktur sejahtera itu sendiri sebagai suatu struktur untuk memperkasa negara dalam kesempatan berlakunya pandemik COVID-19. Kemudian perkembangan itu menyusul membicarakan tentang bagaimana sejahtera itu sebagai suatu ideal, sebagai suatu konsep, sebagai satu modul boleh dibangunkan untuk menjadi sebagai tools pengurusan, sebagai satu alat untuk mengurus dan juga sebagai suatu alat untuk membina negara. Sehinggalah kita membicarakan tentang bagaimana pengalaman negara asing, khususnya dalam konteks Korea Selatan yang sudah membangunkan sebuah kompleks sistem ataupun pusat dipanggil sebagai Sejahtera Center dengan mengekalkan nama sejahtera itu sendiri. Dan pada minggu lalu kami telah membawakan satu tetamu yang mewakili Persatuan Pembangunan Sosial untuk Greater Gombak membicarakan tentang bagaimana idea tentang sejahtera itu sebenarnya sudah pun berakar dan sudah pun bergerak dalam kalangan sosial kehidupan kita seharian. Justru kami membawakan lagi tema-tema ini untuk mengembangkan idea sejahtera itu dan sekali lagi kami bawakan tetamu-tetamu dari dalam dan luar negara dan untuk tujuan itu perbincangan dialog sejahtera pada malam ini sekali lagi bertemakan tentang pengalaman sejahtera dalam konteks amalan korporat bersama tetamu dari negara asing. Justru kita akan membicarakan dialog per malam ini secara dua bahasa, in Malay and as well as in English. Allow me to introduce both my guests. Welcome to the show, Mr. Yazdi Jehangir Bankwala, and welcome again, Dr. Zulkifly Baharom, the CEO of Sebagai, Sejahtera Leadership Initiative. Mr. Yazdi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, allow me to give a little bit of background. Mr. Yazdi Jehangir Bankwala adalah merupakan seorang rakyat berketurunan England. Mr. Yazdi currently is the CEO of Arpitha Associates Singapore and Malaysia. And he has an extensive experience in the banking sector, and also currently he is handling consultancy in developing value and helping everyone to nurture good values. I was told that he has been for essence of, if I may quote from what I gathered through my conversation with Dr. Zul, that Mr. Yazdi mentioned that he left UK in search of good human values in Asia and found the best in the model of Sejahtera in Malaysia. Allow me to quote you, sir. That's what I gathered from Dr. Zulkifly Baharom. And of course, we remember Dr. Zul, who has been with us, I think, in the last 3 weeks or so. Dr. Zul, we were discussing about how this Sejahtera model can be incorporated in training sessions when it comes to the corporate sector. So today we have our both guests and we'll be handling the show both in English and Malay at the same time. So welcome to the show, both Dr. Zul and also Mr. Yazdi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right. I would like to invite our viewers to, if you have any question, you can also share your comments. We'll be able to, revert to all those comments being provided online via Facebook as well as YouTube. So allow me to begin. First off, Mr. Yazdi, I was informed that you are one of the director of Sejahtera Leadership Initiative. So can you share with us your experience when you first encountered the ideals and the idea underlying Sejahtera itself, Mr. Yazdi?
Yes, thank you very much. Salam Sejahtera to all the viewers. Thank you so much for having us for your wonderful show. Very happy to share some perspectives with your viewers. So yes, my journey to try and understand this subject actually has been going on for more than 30 years. Making inquiry in different places. The seed of the plant started when I started my career in banking in London more than around 30 years ago. And although when we are young, we are only looking for our career, our performance, success in life. But I joined an organization which is a very unusual organization. That's a case study on its own. So it put a seed of inquiry as to what organizations should be about, what are values really about. So it was by all chance a very, very unusual organization that I joined. So why do I say it was an unusual organization? For example, in its mission, primary mission was service to humanity. Now, 30 years ago, there are not many organizations who will use language like that.
Yeah.
The other important mission it had was submission to God. Now, for a corporate organization, that was a very, very, very unusual statement.
Yeah.
They had another operating belief that material growth is a consequence of moral growth. So if you focus on your moral or your values, material growth or economic success will be there. So these were very unusual languages that we as young people were trying to figure out what is this really all about. So that was a starting experience in life. So it rose a lot of questions in my mind. And then when I left the UK, I left for a reason to try and understand values a bit more. I spent a lot of time roaming around in different countries. I was fortunate to meet some very great thinkers in this field. One professor from the Management Center from Human Values in India, Professor S.K. Chakrabarti. So again, a lot of seeds were planted in my thought process. Then I worked with Dr. J.M. Sampath, who's the founder of Arpitha, who has done pioneering work on values. So values has been my life, not just a profession. So I was very fortunate to meet Dr. Zul around 25 years ago when he was heading Malaysian Airlines here in KL. And fortunately, he was one of the rare people who understood the importance of values straight away. And our relationship has continued. So maybe 3-4 years ago, he told me, Yazdi, there's an international peace program conference. Why don't you come? I've got some tickets. Let's go. So when Dr. Zul gives any idea, I will jump. I will not figure. So we went, and that conference, the keynote address was one Tansri Zulkifly Baharom, who I have never heard of and don't know anything about. So he spoke, and I was totally amazed. So I whispered to Dr. Zul, who was sitting on my left. I said, "Who is this Tansri? He's our type of man. He's speaking a language that is very simple, very practical, and we must go and meet him. Somehow find a way how to go and meet him." He said, "Yes, yes, sure, we will do that." Then 1 year went by, traveling, etc., etc. Another year later, he said, "Yazdi, Tansri is speaking again at another forum. Why don't you come?" Again, we went, and then an opportunity was created. Then by then, I realized Dr. Zul had already been involved in setting up Sejahtera Leadership Initiative. Many things I started learning. So casually, they invited me to meet to some gatherings. And I realized that this is something very, very important, something very meaningful that is coming out of Malaysia. And whatever small support, help we can give in any way, that I should be able to do that. So it was a very by chance scenario. And of course, then we were lucky to have some more interaction. So that was my sort of early encounter. I think 2-3 years have already gone by since then. And we were fortunate that even with Tansri, we had opportunity to visit other universities overseas. And last year, there was one opportunity with the International Values Conference where professors from various institutes from all over the world had come. The Global Values in Education Conference in India. Fortunately, I was there. And Tansri was a keynote speaker. He was the only speaker who got a standing ovation.
I see.
And you could see from the response of the crowd, I think maybe 600-700 participants from all parts, all walks of. And the organizers were also so impressed that they requested Tansri to take 2 further sessions.
My goodness.
To the extent that he was supposed to leave on the final to the airport, and he was supposed to miss the closing session. They requested he should stay for the closing, and they will take responsibility to ensure that he gets on the aircraft. So the point is that even then I see, even outside people are recognizing this language is something very, very meaningful. It touches people's heart. It is very simple. It is not some very complex academic ideal that people cannot relate to. So that, and then there was another experience we also had. Dr. Zul was there at another university in India, where in fact one of our own colleagues from Malaysia, who's also part of Sejahtera, has gone as an export from Malaysia. He started one center for new humanities and compassion studies. Now, can you imagine a university having a center for talking about compassion? So this language may differ, but you can see already the seeds are going to various places.
Right.
And then you see the follow-up from this conference we had last year. There were some speakers from different parts of the world after the conference have been in touch with Sejahtera, have been in touch with Tansi, and said, we are very happy with the work that you are doing. How do we collaborate? How do we dialogue? How do we learn from each other?
Yeah.
So from that, new relationships were born. Last year, I think we were very fortunate. We had the first former minister of education from Bhutan who also visited Malaysia. He was also involved in some Sejahtera forum. So we've been able to, grow this interest with people from international perspectives.
Right.
And as you know, a country like Bhutan has been speaking about gross national happiness as opposed to gross domestic. And they've been doing it for 40 years. They have had some experiments. And they were also very pleased and resonated with the ideas that are developing.
Yeah.
And of course, unfortunately, last few months this year, the global economies have been hit immensely. I think the relevance of Sejahtera becomes even much more critical now than earlier.
Okay.
How do we work towards a balanced, shared prosperity view of life that can take care of, in any society, you have the privileged and maybe not so privileged.
Yeah.
But how do we help the weakest members of our segments of society also to participate and benefit from what we are doing? So the experience has been is that people from different parts of the world are also already beginning to recognize the value of what Sejahtera has been talking. And if you look at the education policy blueprint of Malaysia, which is also incorporated Sejahtera in its framework, and I think it was done in the 80s. So it's not a language that started like, it's not something fashionable that came out of the sky suddenly. So I think it's very fundamental and very important practical concepts that we in Malaysia need to pay a little more attention to. We should also look at it more seriously. And that is where Dr. Zul comes in trying to bring this awareness to multiple segments of society.
Yeah, true.
So maybe that will summarize my initial impact. Maybe Dr. Zul may want to add something to that.
Yeah, as I promised to our viewers that tonight's session will be in both Bahasa and also in English. So if I may move on to Dr. Zul, because Mr. Yazdi mentioned that you were sitting by his side when he first heard about the ideals of Sejahtera. Mungkin di situ boleh dikongsikan sedikit pengalaman sewaktu mana Mr. Yazdi dan juga Dr. Zul mendengar pembentangan tentang Sejahtera itu sendiri. Dr. Zul.
Terima kasih Tuan Syed. Saya memandang Yazdi ini sebagai pertemuan Barat dengan Timur.
Okey.
Jadi percantuman ini menjadikan kata satu perserikatan kata yang kukuh. Saya kalau boleh diimbas kembali iaitu masa saya nak memperkenalkan nilai-nilai murni SED kata di Malaysia Airlines. Malaysia Airlines mempunyai operasi di seluruh dunia. Pada masa saya berkhidmat dengan Malaysia Airlines tu sudah ada kata 125 destinasi yang meliputi seluruh dunia. Jadi bila mana kita dah berjaya di Malaysia nak mengembangkan ke Eropah, ke Amerika Syarikat, saya memerlukan kata seorang yang boleh menceritakan, mempunyai keyakinan kita terhadap konsep nilai-nilai murni yang kita perkenalkan. Jadi di situlah pertemuan kami kata, yang lama-kelamaan menjadi lebih erat. Ya. Jadi setelah kami dapat menjalankan kerja tu atau urusan tersebut dengan baik, jadi kita harus keluar daripada kepompong Malaysia Airlines walaupun dia merupakan syarikat global. Jadi kita cuba kita memperkenalkan ke syarikat-syarikat lain, kepada persatuan-persatuan majikan, pada kesatuan sekerja dan sebagainya. Jadi dengan percantuman kepakaran dan penghayatan Yazdi dengan ada apa yang ada sikit pada saya, kita telah dapat kita melangkah dengan baik. Akan tetapi dunia korporat ni kita memerlukan kita satu tokoh akademik kita yang telah membuat kajian, yang telah telah melakukan penyelidikan, dan kita telah mengamalkannya. Jadi di sinilah kata peluang yang sangat baik, satu peluang keemasan. Kata bila mana Tan Sri Zulkifly kata, dia bercakap dengan nada yang sama seperti mana yang kami cuba lakukan 25 tahun yang lalu. Jadi dengan segera kata saya mencari balik Yazdi, mari dengar balik. Sama ada kata kita sehaluan, whether we are in the same page or not. Jadi tanpa ragu-ragu dia nudge saya kata, you got it right. This is the guy that we have been looking for. Jadi di situlah kata bermulanya, dan kata Yazdi dengan network yang ada telah memperkenalkan Tan Sri ke India, juga kata ke Singapura dan sebagainya. Tuan saya dengan lain perkataan bahawa kata intisari atau intipati kata sejahtera tu memang telah wujud. Cuma kita perlukan kata satu kajian atau penyelidikan yang mengatakan ini bukan kita import daripada mana-mana. Ini memang datang daripada Malaysia, dan daripada situ kita cuba menyatakan bahawa kalau kita tidak gunakan, kalau kita tidak memanfaatkan, kalau kita tidak menghormati dan memberikan pengistirafan kepada tokoh-tokoh akademik kita yang percaya kepada konsep sejahtera, kita rugi besar. Jadi alhamdulillah melalui Sejahtera Leadership Initiative ni kita dapat mencantumkan tokoh akademik, para profesional, para peniaga, dan kata dengan itu kita dapat memperkenalkan bahawa apa yang cuba kita capai selama ini kata memang boleh dilakukan, insyaAllah.
Bahkan perlu dilakukan dalam masa. Mr. Yazdi, I understand that you understand a little bit of Malay, but the essence, the earlier part of what Dr. Zul mentioned was that when you first met Dr. Zul and encountered the idea of Sejahtera, if I understand you correctly, from both of you, I think it was rather by chance and not by design, right? And Dr. Zul mentioned that it was a meeting of East and West agreeing on something of a higher value. So the thing is, you have been, Mr. Yazdi, you have been constantly pursuing values and coming from one block to another, so that you came across Sejahtera as an ideal. And of course, the issue today, both of you has already mentioned earlier, it is even more pertinent, it is even more important, more current for today's predicament rather than previous years, for us to go back to the basics. But it is an uphill battle, if I may say so, because what is considered as virtues may not necessarily brings productivity. At least that's how the corporate will understand it. Maybe Mr. Yazdi, you have had a stint of your earlier years in bankings, and now you are into consultancy and trainings. So how can you elaborate perhaps maybe on that particular issue?
Okay, so thank you. I think there is a paradigm in so-called corporate world that profit and principles can't go together, that one is at the expense of the other. Actually, this is a very old paradigm, very outdated paradigm, and there is enough research even in management journals to show that if you put principles, it need not necessarily mean that you cannot be profitable.
Okay.
And for the sake of viewers, people who have an academic mindset, there is one wonderful book called Good to Great, which was published more than 20 years ago, I suspect. And Jim Collins and for us academics would know. So this book has documented significant case studies in almost every industry, between the number one in that industry and the number two in that industry, and consistently has found that organizations that focused on their values have consistently outperformed over a duration period. Now, one thing we must understand is, even in business or anything in life, we have a short-term strategy, a medium-term strategy, and a long-term strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested in values, it is not going to be a short-term strategy. Values is necessarily required for something that is sustainable, long-lasting, and durable. Now, we all say, for example, in Malaysia, we want to build something for our future, for our next generation. Many corporate leaders will say we are building something for the future. Everybody is saying we want to build something for the future. If you are building something for the future and if you are going to compromise on values, you are going to have difficulty to sustain your success.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a short-term hero, you want to be in the headline of the newspapers, the magazines for the short term and say you're a great corporate leader, your company is great. 3 years later, 2 years later, your name nobody will remember or may not remember. So there is enough research again to show there is a social, people look at Standard and Poor's index, there's one social Domini index that was created more than 20, 30 years ago. There's even a Standard and Poor's social index, and again it shows that companies and organizations that are putting emphasis on the values aspect, the sustainability aspect, the concern for the bigger cause, consistently outperform companies who are only focusing on profit. So this understanding, somehow we are conveniently putting out, and we somehow forget about it, and we believe that our only duty is to create profit for shareholders. It's important, but it's not a balanced coexistence. In Sejahtera, one of the key elements of Sejahtera, the balanced coexistence. So that's my point of view, that the paradigm needs to actually shift. And there's enough evidence if you choose to look at it.
Dr. Zul, itu penjelasan yang kita sedang membincangkan tentang bagaimana latihan yang dibawakan oleh Dr. Zul dalam konteks Malaysia Airlines. Kita dah bincangkan 2-3 minggu lalu. Tetapi bercakap soal paradigm yang dibawakan oleh Encik Yazdi tadi, kita punya pandangan jangka pendek, pandangan jangka panjang, dan digambarkan tadi bahawa selama mana kita melihat kepada nilai, maka pada jangka panjangnya secara konsisten ia memberikan pulangan yang lebih baik. Tetapi itu tidak sentiasa menjadi neraca kepada penilaian, khususnya pemegang saham sebagai contoh, kalau kita cakap soal corporate exercise. Jadi bagaimana Dr. Zul boleh menghuraikan apa yang dibicarakan oleh Dr. Encik Yazdi tadi?
Kalau saya boleh bawa Tuan Syed dan para penonton sekalian ke Jepun.
Okey.
Matsushita, bila mana kata dia menubuhkan atau membentuk syarikat Matsushita tu, dia menekankan kepada values, pada nilai-nilai murni tu, dan dia meletakkan pencapaian tu 250 tahun.
Okay.
Wawasan kesejahteraan yang dibawa oleh Matsushita, dia menyatakan pencapaian hanya boleh dapat tercapai sepenuhnya dalam masa 250 tahun. Jadi dengan lain-lain perkataan bahawa kata seluruh jentera syarikat tersebut menuju ke arah pencapaian wawasan tersebut. Okay. Kita pergi ke Korea, Hyundai, bila saya membuat kajian kata dia itu juga sedemikian rupa. Jadi dia menyatakan kata wawasan tu bukan 1-2 tahun. Itu 1-2 tahun tu adalah kata untuk perancangan, objektif, strategi dan juga kata misinya. Tapi bila katakan wawasan berasaskan nilai-nilai murni, nilai-nilai kesejahteraan diri dan kesejahteraan organisasi, ia harus mencangkut long haul, maknanya kata bukan kata untuk 3 bulan, 3 tahun, 30 tahun, tapi 250 tahun sebagai contohnya.
Yeah.
Itu sebab kita perhatikan Sony, Matsushita, apa ni, Hyundai, Samsung, mereka ni kata telah terpacak dalam dunia industri ni lebih daripada 100 tahun. Saya dalam pertemuan dengan Tuan Syed kata 2 minggu yang lalu juga menceritakan kata Shell. Shell juga kata meletakkan kata wawasannya yang kata yang jauh tinggi melambung. Ya. Jadi semua pergerakan menuju ke arah itu. So saya yakin bahawa kalau kita perhatikan di Malaysia, di sini Tuan Syed izinkan saya untuk menyentuh. J-Corp. Saya pernah mengadakan beberapa pertemuan dengan Allahyarham Tan Sri Ali Hashim. Dia grup CEO. Dia membawa kaedah-kaedah nilai murni ni. Dan kata satu-satunya syarikat yang pada masa itu mencebur diri dalam hospital, dalam perubatan ialah J-Corp. Yang lain tu kata masih kata ini investment besar, ini kerajaannya, biarlah kerajaan buat. Tapi kata dia kerana kata dia mempunyai macam Yazdi kata tadi, shared prosperity tu. Dia kata J-Corp sebagai syarikat yang berasaskan pada plantation telah maju dan berkembang, mempunyai keuangan yang mantap. Jadi kita harus plow back. Harus kita berikan kata sumbangan kita kepada masyarakat. So dia tubuhkan hospital tu, hospitalnya KPJ. Jadi yang orang lain ni kata terpegun. Ini kata hospital ni bukan boleh dapat untung. Dan kata dia letakkan harga kosnya tu kata atas sikit je daripada kerajaan. Jadi kata dia tidak meletakkan kata kosnya macam syarikat kata apa ni yang mengendalikan hospital ni, kalau pergi masuk ke hospital tu berada dalam 7 atau 8 bintang punya hotel. Ya. Jadi kata dia punya environment tu kata bukan sangat walaupun kata perubatan dan segala teknikalnya baik, tapi dia kata lebih nak menjurus kepada kata orang yang mempunyai banyak wang. Kalau kata boleh jadi dia menjadi satu industri kata, untuk mendapatkan boleh melaba untung. Tapi J-Corp saudara itu kata approach dengan lain, kerana kata dah di hospital kerajaan ni kata dah agak sesak kan. Jadi kata bila ada KPJ ni kata dia memberikan kata pada orang yang middle class, yang golongan pertengahan ada pilihan untuk pergi situ. Dan kata banyak syarikat-syarikat juga kata yang mengantar pekerjanya ke sana tu kerana kata dia dapat menunjukkan ada kelebihan sikit lah daripada kata syarikat apa ni hospital kerajaan. Tuan Syed, saya pun dapat bahawa kata values ini atau kesejahteraan diri masyarakat dan juga negara adalah untuk jangka panjang. Kalau kita nak cari untung cepat, memang ini bukan tempatnya.
There are two issues here, if I may raise, Dr. Zul and Mr. Yazdi. Dr. Zul brings forth examples of the big companies of Japan corporations, Matsushita, Sony, and you name it, and they are going for the long haul. And in fact, it was mentioned just now, Matsushita, for instance, Dr. Zul mentioned they have an overview of 250 years of operation. But the challenges today is due to the internet, in fact, the era of instantaneity. I think the patience in the market is very thin, almost everything is required to be at the very instant. And that's the challenges in the mindset, because when you talk about ideals, when you talk about long hauls, it will not be necessarily be acceptable in the current economic regime, if I may say so. So there is, on one side, we have the ideals of Sejahtera, whereby we need to educate everyone, and in fact, we need to impart these values for the long haul. But at the same time, the very structure of the market and the business spectrum requires something that brings about immediate impact. How do we bridge this gap between the ideals and the practicality, as well as the expectation of the public at large? Mr. Yazdi.
I'm qualified, but you have identified the two sides.
Yeah.
You know, the long haul and the short-term player.
Yeah.
Now, you know, actually, it is always the role of the leader
to
guide the people to the place that they want to be, or they should be, but they don't want to be.
Okay.
So you will always have a very small community of people who are the visionary, who can see there is the future, there is the North Star, there is the light. Everybody will say, today is okay, boss. Let me be happy where I am. Don't disturb me.
You also use the word rakyat, yeah?
Yeah, well, whatever.
You understand the word rakyat.
Even in the corporate world, it happens. If you're trying to do a corporate change initiative, transformation initiative, you will always have 15% of the people who are always very positive. Oh, future is great, future is wonderful, even pandemic, no, we can. There's always 15% of the people who are always negative. Even if you give them a promotion, you give them a pay rise, they'll say, there's a suspicion here, they're up to something. So 30, then you have this block in the middle, sitting on the fence, don't know where to go.
Confused,
not sure, not clear.
Okay.
Now, it is this minority 5, 10, 15% of the leaders who have the capacity, the capability to show the vision to the people who are slightly confused. Hey guys, the sun is there, the North Star is there, our future is there, let's move there. And I don't say it's easy, it's challenging role for the leader, but the role of the leader is to get a smaller percentage of these floating voters, or whatever you want to call them, to come to the positive side.
Okay.
So we need not worry that we have to convince 100% of the people. We need to focus on the visionary people who have a longer term view, to understand what we are talking and move society, move families, move their organizations to a more desired place.
Yeah.
And yes, there are people who are younger, who want instant gratification, instant result. You see, you will know today, again, research will show more young people, before they have become CEOs, have become multimillionaires than at any time in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
And they also become bankrupt by 30, 31, 32. So they have achieved all the material success that maybe our parents, our forefathers took one generation to achieve. So the cycle time is very fast. You can become up and you can come down very, very fast.
Yeah.
Now, some people enjoy this game. Young people love video games. They enjoy to win the game. Now, they are young. That's the game they want to play. Let them have their fun. Let them enjoy at their young age.
Yeah.
But that does not mean the overall society's focus should shift to that. I mean, so we need to be clear where we want to go.
Right.
We are not imposing it on others. Let others graduate slowly towards that point of view. Right. And hopefully the direction of society keeps moving. It may not be smoothly up, maybe a little bit of turbulence on the way, but the direction is moving into a desired point of view.
Yeah.
So I think now this itself is a value choice. Do I want to live for the short term, the medium term, or the long term? Now this is a decision for each individual, each family, each organization. But the very essence of Sejahtera, the very essence of sustainability. Today you see sustainability is in the language everywhere. 10, 15 years ago, sustainability word hardly heard.
Exactly.
So sustainability means globally we have accepted that for our collective well-being, we cannot forget about this.
Right.
Now, just because you don't agree with me or you feel short term is better for you, I need not give up my point of view. I need to remain focused on what I believe is best for us.
Right.
So the debate will continue.
Yeah.
What you are doing through your program, you are trying to reach more people. You are trying to influence more people.
Mm-hmm.
We need to continue to do this.
Right.
I must tell you an interesting example.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 20 odd years ago, I was at an international conference on values.
Okay.
A lot of corporate leaders, academics,
Mm.
and they were one of the sessions turned to the younger generation do not value values.
Okay.
Our fathers valued it, we value it, and they were, let's call it, bashing the younger generation.
Okay.
There was one young gentleman who was an MD of a company in his early 30s. Unfortunately, I was also maybe the second youngest one. So we had a 2-hour session where the young generation was bashed out of shape for not valuing values.
Okay.
So we had a tea break, so that young fellow and me were standing in one corner because of generation gap.
Okay.
And he said something to me. I said, you go back and share it. He said, all you old generation are complaining that the young generation is not practicing values.
Okay.
If it was so important to you, why did you not teach it to the young generation? You have failed us. We are not failing you. So my question to you is 10, 15 years from now, people may turn to people like you and me. When you had a TV show, when you had a power of influence, what influence did you make for us to realize that values is important?
Okay. Luckily, I'm not the one having to answer that question. Okay, Dr. Zul, yeah. Because when Mr. Yazdi mentioned about the role of the leaders, it reminds me that we need more statesmen rather than politicians, and that we should not be confining our discussion when it comes to promoting sejahtera values. It's not only about the political leaders, but also across the board leaders from the top echelon of the politics right down to the very administrative nature of any organization. So dalam hal yang sedemikian, kalau boleh saya bertanyakan soalan, same question to both of you. Can sejahtera be commercialized, or should it be commercialized when it comes to training, when it comes to module, because now even we are criticizing those who are not valuing values, but in fact values can be a commodity in some way, because you're promoting it as a module, as a training. So if I may ask this question to Dr. Zul first. Dr. Zul.
Tepat sekali. Kalau kita tengok masuk cerita tadi tu, kerana orang kata dia menggunakan values tu sebagai satu approach atau satu pendekatan untuk pencapaian productivity dan profitnya, dia dapat bertahan lama.
Okay.
Kerana dan mereka ni kata percaya kepada lifelong kata employment. Kita perhatikan Shell balik tadi juga begitu, kerana kata dia telah meletakkan kata pencapaian values tu, dan segala terma-terma pekerjaan kata dijaga baik oleh syarikat. Pekerja, para pegawainya kata menyerahkan seluruh atau memberikan penumpuan 100% kepada kerja mereka secara profesional. Jadi dia tahu bila kata anak dia sakit, ada tempat syarikat akan menyediakan hospital terbaik untuk anak dia mendapat rawatan, atau bila isteri dia nak bersalin, ada tempat kata untuk mereka ini kata mendapat segala kemudahan yang terbaik. Jadi dia tak ada runsing. Dia kata boleh tumpu kerja dia kata 100%, kadang-kadang 150%. Jadi inilah kata kita nampak kata perbezaan kata. Bila mana kata kita hanya nak mengejar profit secara jangka pendek, kita tidak menjaga hal ehwal kebajikan kata para pekerja dengan baik. Jadi talent yang terbaik akan lari pergi ke syarikat persaingan kita. So yang demikian, saya amat setuju dengan apa yang Tuan Syed kata tadi, bahawa everybody is a leader. Semua, setiap, malah kata kalau kita pergi kepada pendekatan agama Islam kita, Rasulullah mengatakan kata setiap kita ni pemimpin. Jadi bila kita jadi pemimpin, apa yang harus kita tunjukkan? Kita tunjukkan akhlak yang terbaik. Kita tunjukkan kata cara hidup ya yang terbaik, yang kata boleh kata menguntungkan kata masyarakat terbanyak. Ya. Jadi bila kata setiap orang tu kata memprojekkan diri dia sebagai leaders, sebagai seorang pemimpin, dan dia mencari satu model, satu role player kata yang diagungkan. Macam kita orang Islam kata Rasulullah adalah kata pemimpin kata yang unggul, berakhlak mulia dan kata paling tawaduk. Saya nak sentuh juga tawaduk ni. Kita cakap tawaduk tapi kita tak laksanakan. Collin tadi, Jim Collin kata yang pada tahun 2001 mengeluarkan kata buku kata Good to Great. Dalam dia punya 5th discipline of leadership, dia menyebut bahawa kata perlu ada, menggunakan perkataan Inggerisnya, bermakna kata tawaduk. Kata tawaduk ni bila seorang pemimpin itu kata dia merasa rendah diri, ya, dia tidak akan melakukan kata perkara-perkara kata yang tidak menguntungkan masyarakat. Ya, saya tak khawatirkan sangat kata para politikus ni kata. Kalau rakyat menunjukkan tawaduk, menunjukkan kata kepimpinan di sektor masing-masing, macam tuan saya katakan tadi, kalau dia dalam family dia menjadi pemimpin keluarga dia yang terbaik. Kalau dia kata di tempat kerjanya kata dalam kerja kerani sekalipun, dia menunjukkan kata dia jadi pemimpin untuk kata meja tempat dia buat kerja tu bersih, kemas, teratur, tersusun. Setiap komponen masyarakat tu kata menunjukkan tawaduknya dia dalam dan bersyukur kepada apa yang dia ada, dan dia dengan penuh kesabaran menjalankan kata amanah dia kata terbaik mungkin. Ini pernah saya saksikan, pemimpin unggul tu sendiri juga kata akan terasa terkesan bila dia tidak melakukan kata apa yang kata rakyatnya kata apa yang para pekerjanya kata telah menunjukkan. Saya ambil satu contoh di sini kita. Saya pernah tengok dalam satu unit kerja, bosnya bila nak berjalan nak mengarahkan kata sesuatu kerja tu tak lepas daripada mulutnya the 4-letter words. Dah bila dia nak bercakap, dia mesti kata kasar, ya. Akan tetapi para pekerja dengan penuh tawaduk, penuh amanah, tidak menentang, menunjukkan kata mempamerkan satu perilaku yang terbaik, ya. Lama kelamaan bos tu heran, mengapa kata mereka ni kata steady dan kata menjalan, kata ikut cakap aku, kata tak ada menentang aku dan sebagainya. Ya. Dia terpaksa berubah kerana kata seluruh budaya kerja di situ, ya, mungkin ada pemimpin di kalangan mereka mengatakan kita jangan lawan dia bos, dia ada kuasa, biarkan, ya. Tunjuk satu masa kata dia sakit, besok kita macam mana kita akan tunjukkan. Jadi kata bila dia sakit, budak-budak ni kita pergi menziarahi dia, bawa kata hadiah-hadiah pada dia, datang kesedarannya, dan lepas itu dia berubah. Yang demikian, organisasi tempat kerja, budaya tempat kerja mereka telah transform dengan sebaik. So saya boleh mengatakan sini bahawa jangan risau sangat pemimpin korupsi, pemimpin yang tak amanah, you know, jangan kita dok kata sangat doang. Kita lakukan, kita tunjukkan. Setiap seorang pada kita, salah setiap anggota masyarakat kita tu menunjukkan kesejahteraannya ya dengan baik, Allah ada. Allah akan memberi petunjuk. Kita selalu berdoa bukan minta orang tu jatuh sakit atau kata dia jatuh bencana. Kita berdoa supaya Allah memberikan petunjuknya kepada kita. Jadi kita dah ada semua tu. Tapi yang digunakan kata oleh orang barat ni tu saya katakan East Midwest tadi. Mereka cakap pada tawaduk, mereka cakap pasal merendah diri dan sebagainya. Ya. So Tuan Syed kata, saya sangat setuju apa yang Tuan Syed katakan tadi, bahawa setiap kita ni perlu menjadi pemimpin mengikut apa pengaruh yang kita ada, dan kita tunjukkan bahawa kata kesejahteraan inilah yang akan menyelamatkan masyarakat, tempat kerja dan seterusnya.
Dr. Zul mengingatkan kita, innallaha la yughayyiru ma biqaumin, tak akan diubah nasib kaum itu, melainkan berusaha mengubah sendiri. Now, Mr. Yazdi, I asked the question to Dr. Zul and also to you about the commercialization of Sejahtera itself, or should it be commercialized? Because now we're talking about values, but even value itself can be developed into training modules, into value system, to be incorporated in the professional practices. So what's your take on this?
Let's see, I mean, the reality of this is I have spent almost 25 years of my professional life.
Yeah. So you're the testimony of it, yeah?
Earning a living.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
God's blessing.
Yeah.
So the point now is, of course, I consider myself very blessed. Very rare opportunity for me to be able to do this type of work.
Okay.
So the important thing here is, see, commercialization, of course, the word has become very confused in many people's mind. Profit has become, can become a negative connotation.
Right.
The important thing to me is, what is your intent?
Okay.
What is your intent? What is your focus? So are we there to contribute, or are we there to take?
Okay.
Is contribution of what we are trying to do more important than the so these are two, I don't know, okay, two modules. One module says I want to take, one module says I want to give. So today we have come into a society where everyone is ready to take. The minute I graduate, what is my job? What is my salary? What is my perks? What is my future? What are you going to give me? We are not training our people to become contributors. The minute I come to society, my first thought should be, what have I come here to contribute? What am I to give? So this thing needs to change, for which you need resources, you need technology, revenue is required. So how you utilize that revenue is more important than should we charge, should we not charge. And unfortunately, we are living in a world that when you charge more, people respect you more. They seem to listen to you. So, but at the end of the day, we must not forget.
Right.
As I'm saying, the intention is more important than the end. How much money you are making out of that. The minute making the money takes balances out,
right,
you have lost the game of Sejahtera. You have lost the whole thing. And it is very easy to fall.
Right.
At every time in our professional journey, we will always be at a certain point where the stakes will be high and you are tempted to fall.
Okay.
So how you organize yourself is very important. So one of the things we were fortunate to do, we are raising revenue from corporate fees.
Okay.
I think more than 10-15 years ago, our founders decided that all this corporate work that we are doing, we are recontextualized for school children.
I see.
For 10-15 years, modules were developed. The benefit, and you know why that happened? We were earning our revenue from very big corporate clients in Malaysia.
Okay.
And senior GMs, VPs will come to say, hey, you know, I'm around 52, 53. Those days, retirement age was 55 in some companies.
Okay.
So you are teaching me about these values. I wish you had taught me at 23 or 22 when I was supposed to begin my professional career.
Okay.
So why don't you teach us at 22? Then some came and said, can you do this for our children? Because if they had it, then the last next 30, 40 years would be more meaningful. So that itself motivated us to create these modules, workbooks, the whole thing for children. And a few 100,000 children have been able to benefit.
Okay.
Now in education, so you can do many things with your money. You can do many things, but intention must be very clear of what you're trying to do.
Begin with the end in mind.
Yes, that again is a personal choice. And it is a personal struggle with the extra profit that I make. Do I upgrade to a bigger house, a bigger car, or do I do something else with it? So these are again personal choices we'll have to learn to make and respect.
Yeah. My last question to both of you, since we've deliberated quite at lengthy when it comes to compatibility of Sejahtera and also the corporate exercise. So what should we be focusing next if we want to promote Sejahtera as an ideal, as a module throughout the commercial world? So what can you advise? If I may begin with Mr. Yazdi first.
I think this is a good question for Dr. Zul, because as the CEO of Sejahtera Leadership, he has a very strategic vision on many things that are possible. But my overall view is that Sejahtera is a state of awareness, a state of being, a state of consciousness, and it should permeate all segments of society.
Okay.
School, education, corporate, society, government, NGOs. See today, whether we like it or not, almost all areas of society talk about the word sustainability. Government agencies talk about it, schools talk about it. So just like sustainability and it's anchored to the SDG goals, Sejahtera goes a bit deeper and beyond that.
Yeah.
So Sejahtera should actually permeate all segments of society. And it should take its own journey, like a river flows to the ocean and water takes its own course. It will evolve. So, for example, even in the International Islamic University, you have a Sejahtera Center for Sustainability. It's taking its own course. Dr. Zul will later now explain to you multiple Sejahtera initiatives that keep coming. People come to him, people come to us and say, what can we do? Can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? So maybe he can answer that better on what are the things. So
that's why he's going to be the one closing the discussion tonight. Dr. Zul. Dr. Zul, apa yang harus kita berikan fokus berikutnya?
Saya berpendapat universiti mesti mengadakan modul-modul core atau elective subjeknya mengenai kepimpinan sejahtera. Ya. Kerana graduan daripada universiti ini akan menjadi pengurus, menjadi pemimpin korporat, menjadi usahawan dan sebagainya. Yeah. Kalau mereka ini kita boleh diberikan satu gagasan, kan, memahami kita sepenuhnya kita maksud kita sejahtera tu, saya percaya masa depan sejahtera ni sudah tentu dapat berkembang. Okay. Ya? Saya ambil universiti dulu. Dan apa yang kita harus lakukan, saya pernah cakap dengan Dr. Zainal, Sejahtera Center kita mengadakan kita satu research, kita mengenal pasti di sektor, di segala sektor. Kita sekarang ni membincang pasal sektor korporat. Yeah. Kita hantar student kita untuk jangan sekadar pergi buat internship, buat kerja bancuh teh untuk bos, internship 6 bulan. Sekarang ni kita bagi satu modul pada mereka supaya kata dia mengesan apakah amalan-amalan sejahtera yang dilakukan oleh syarikat-syarikat tersebut. Sekarang ni kita kebanyakan universiti mengantar pelajar mereka membuat latihan praktikal atau internship dia panggil antara 3 ke 6 bulan. Bekalkan mereka kata dengan satu variables atau satu kaedah tertentu, dia buat, ini bukan nak mencari kesalahan macam auditors, ya, dia kata mencari apakah yang terbaik. Dan terbaik itu diketengahkan. Dan selepas itu kita tengok daripada yang terbaik ini apakah yang paling terbaik, diberikan pengistirafan, diberikan kata satu anugerah dan sebagainya. So dengan itu kita akan para pemimpin sektor korporat ni kita akan merasa terpanggil untuk mereka terus melakukan kaedah-kaedah tersebut. Ambil satu contoh lah, berapa banyak syarikat yang mempunyai bajet kebajikan pekerjanya melebihi daripada 1% revenue-nya. Jadi dengan cara demikian, ia merupakan serampang dua mata. Satu, keadaan kebajikan di syarikat tersebut akan berkembang. Yang kedua, bahawa ia akan menjadi satu petanda aras untuk yang lain mengikutinya. Jadi dia kata di satu syarikat, dia memberikan keutamaan kepada pekerja-pekerja atau kaki tangan wanita mereka yang nak bersalin, dia bagikan kemudahan yang terbaik kerana dia percaya bila terlahirlah kata zuriat yang baru ni, bahawa mereka kata akan menjadi kata pemimpin untuk masa depan dan sebagainya. Ini satu syarikat. Satu syarikat lagi kata menjaga kepentingan mereka kata yang kurang kata sihat, macam mana ditentukan mereka dapat diberikan segala kemudahan yang terbaik supaya dia dapat segera sihat dan mentalnya sihat, hatinya sihat, ya. Dengan itu kata dia boleh memberikan sumbangan yang terbaik kepada syarikat. Jadi macam-macam ada. Saya tahu pergilah ke mana-mana syarikat ada sesuatu yang terbaik. Mengapa kita tidak tonjolkan? Mengapa sengaja saja nak tonjolkan tokoh CEO kata yang hebat-hebat, yang gaji kata dekat 1 juta dan sebagainya. Ini yang kita nak tonjol bagi hadiah. Buat apa? Kita cari pemimpin kata kecil-kecilan kata yang telah memberikan sumbangan kepada kata syarikat tersebut dan juga kepada masyarakatnya. Masuk COVID ni banyak kata kes-kes ini. Tuan saya ingat saya ada cerita di satu restoran di Putrajaya kata, ingat tuan saya yang mana kata pekerja tu terpanggil kata melakukan sesuatu.
Saya ingat cerita tu 3 minggu lepas.
Ya, jadi kata bila kita perhatikan kata kita jumpa, kita tidak memberikan pengistirafan, tidak berikan mereka motivasi. Habis cukup akhir tahun ni mereka akan balik kepada cara kerja yang lama. Kalau kita kata istiraf mereka tu, kita bagikan okey, kita jadikan ini kata satu model yang lain kata boleh ikuti, dan mereka ni kata diberikan imbuhan yang sesuai kerana kata dia telah menunjukkan satu perkhidmatan kata terbaik. Perkhidmatan tu bukan untuk restoran tu aja. Seluruh industri kata F&B ni kata akan dapat berubah kalau semua jadi macam tu. Di sinilah saya mengatakan kata bahawa pihak universiti mempunyai peranan kata untuk mengenal pasti dan kata daripada jurnal-jurnal yang cerita besar-besar ni, buatlah cerita kecil-kecil ni. Saya ingin ambil contoh ni. Misalnya kata berapa sekolah yang tadikanya budak-budak cusun kasut secara sopan. Berapa sekolah kata yang kata pelajar-pelajar atau murid-muridnya sendiri yang mengendalikan kata tandas terbaik. Lebih baik daripada di hotel bintang 5. Berapa banyak sekolah kata yang mengadakan kata Sejahtera Garden Mereka kata dapat bukan tanam pokok-pokok bunga sekadar itu, tapi menanam kata buah-buahan dan sayur-sayuran yang boleh kata digunakan, kata dimanfaatkan sesama mereka dan pada umum. Jadi ini yang harus kita tonjolkan. Banyak tuan saya. Sejahtera ni kata bukan kata sesuatu cerita dongeng-dongengan ya. Realitinya dah ada. Cuma tugas kita universiti in particular mencari kata manakah kata champion-champion ini. Manakah juara-juara ni. Dan juara ini kita tonjolkan, juara ini kita perkenalkan iktiraf mereka dan buat kata kajian yang lebih mendalam, adakan case-case study supaya kata seluruh masyarakat dapat manfaat daripadanya. InsyaAllah kita maju.
InsyaAllah. Dr. Zul memberikan tekanan yang besar kepada rakan saya, Dr. Zainal. Dari Sejahtera untuk melaksanakan ini. Okay, terima kasih banyak atas perkongsian itu. I would like to thank both our guests, Mr. Yazdi and also Dr. Zul, and thank you especially for both of you for articulating a very insightful discussion tonight. Terima kasih kepada kedua-duanya. Mudah-mudahan hopefully we can be on the show again sometime in the future. And we'll discuss something, as subsequent to this discussion. I believe there are a lot more angles that we need to tackle when it comes to proliferating and making the essence of sejahtera being shared by all Malaysian and also across the globe as well. Terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada kedua-dua tetamu, Encik Yazdi dan juga Encik Dr. Zul atas perkongsian pada malam ini. InsyaAllah kita berjumpa Saban Khamis pukul 9 malam pastinya untuk dialog sejahtera pada minggu-minggu yang datang. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Assalamualaikum dan selamat menghibah hari ucapkan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.